Welcome to the Financial Power Play, the podcast where hockey meets real life money talk. I'm Brett from Uptown Wealth Management, here to help hockey families and professionals create a financial game plan that works on and off the ice. From the rink to retirement, this is your go-to for real stories, smart strategies, and trusted advice. Let's drop the puck and dive in. Hi, welcome to the Financial Power Play. I'm your host, Brett Cranson, and today I have a great guest with me, Kaity Howarth, who used to play professional hockey in the PHF, and now she runs a summer program for girls, helping them improve their skills, as well as she's also a great real estate agent, and she's been very successful with that over the last year and so that she's been doing that. So let's take it away and let's introduce Kaity. Hey, Kaity, how's it going?
It's going. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's start off with your hockey journey. How did you fall in love with the game, and how did you start playing?
I started playing around 3 or 4. I know I was skating the second that I could. Being from Thunder Bay, it's really a hockey town. So my dad played, my uncles played, all of my siblings and cousins played. So it was just kind of natural that I ended up in it. It was just something I did with my family. My uncles coached me growing up, so did my older cousins. My dad coached me for a long time until, it was time for a parent to step back. He hit that U13 age. But it was really just something that happened naturally.
That's awesome. So how did you transition from like playing minor hockey into going to U Sports at St. Mary's?
You know what? Coming from a small town, it was not an easy journey. I actually left home just before my 16th birthday, and I went to play in Winnipeg with the Balmoral Hall Blazers at a prep academy and live in dorms, which came with its own challenges. And I always laugh about that year because I thought I was so ready to get out of my small town and thought I was going to hit the ground running. And within 2 months, I was on the phone, Mom, pick me up. Um, from there, I actually did a post-grad year playing junior in Whitby, Ontario with the Whitby Junior Wolves. Because coming out of grade 12, I had nowhere to go. Whether it was recruiting mistakes or for whatever reason, I did have Division 3 offers, but financially it wasn't attainable for me. And then I did have a Canadian offer, but again, it just wasn't financially attainable for what I needed. So I took the post-grad year, and then I really had a selection of schools to choose from that year. I met Chris Larad pretty early in the season. He was the head coach of St. Mary, still is. He flew me out to Halifax to see the school, and it just felt right. Everything kind of clicked. So that's where I was headed. And I liked Halifax, and I loved SMU for it being a small school. It felt like home. By that point, I was pretty honest with myself that I was homesick, but I wanted to stay away to keep playing. So it was a pretty natural jump into it, and it checked all the boxes for me as far as what I needed to continue playing because I was very lucky growing up. I never missed an opportunity, but um, it was something where my parents were giving everything that they could so that I could keep playing.
That's great. So how was the recruiting process from when you were playing with Whitby Wolves? Did you have a lot of schools come out and talk to you? Did you visit a few schools? And what about on the NCAA side? Did you get any NCAA
I did
schools
uh,
looking?
I did visit some NCAA schools as well. I visited some Canadian schools. Um, I had some offers for my first 2 years paid for in NCAA Division 1 and then earning my back 2 years. Um, it was I was a player that did not enjoy that process. I was a basket case when it came to mental preparation for games. The pressure was just a little bit too much for me at the age that I was at. I would have to learn how to deal with it later, but I just kind of couldn't keep it together all the way to seize that opportunity. So it ended up being that U Sports was the best road for me, especially knowing knowing myself, I remember having honest conversations with my parents about if I go to these NCAA schools, my first 2 years are paid for, how quickly can I learn how to deal with pressure to get my back 2 years paid for? Because pressure was a huge thing for me at the time. It was a cracking point, and coming from Thunder Bay, we didn't have a lot of conversations about mental fortitude and dealing with performance pressures and stuff like that. So it's actually something that now I have somebody into my camp. I have a mental performance coach in to talk to my girls and give them some tools to deal with that. But at the time, I had none.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to get into that in a few minutes. I just have one more question for you about your hockey background now. Like, so going from youth sports and then becoming a professional athlete, or playing in the professional hockey league for women. How was that transition? How did the recruiting process go? And because I don't think I'm not sure if there was a draft back then or not when you played. And then how was playing in the league?
There was no draft. I actually ended up I ended up in Montreal playing for the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, kind of by skip, fall, and a tumble. Um, I was in my final year of university. I actually needed a back surgery because I had herniated a disc in my back, and it was sitting on a nerve that was running down my leg. It was extremely painful. I waited a year before I got the surgery, so ultimately, when I got that surgery, the surgeon, my athletic therapist at school, and my physiotherapist told me, "You're never going to play hockey at this level again. Your new normal is going to look a lot different." So I didn't play. My fourth year was a COVID year. So I had a minimum 3 month recovery from my back surgery, which was done late September or early October. And then I was doing school in somebody's basement. The team couldn't get together. I couldn't attend these ice sessions because of COVID concerns. So unfortunately, I made the decision to pack up and go home. It was just one of those times that I definitely needed family around me. So I did my fourth year at home thinking I was completely done. I still trained. I was still on the ice whenever I could, just simply for the love of hockey. It was nowhere near the level that um, I would think that I would be performing at to prepare for professional hockey. But actually, my friend that I later got to play with, Sam Isbell, who's still playing now, just signed with Ottawa in the PWHL, came home for a visit. Naturally, we were hanging out, and Sam just said, "Why are you not moving to Montreal to play in the PWHPA this year?" It was the Olympic year, so they were missing a lot of players. They needed to fill gaps. It was kind of the perfect year for, um, to be realistic with myself, somebody who needed an opportunity to sneak in. And that's kind of exactly what I did. So I packed up my stuff within 3 weeks, found an apartment in the same building, and just moved down and hoped for the best. And it was a unique year because it was almost like all the pressure was taken off. So when I showed up, we did, I believe, 4 tournament weekends that year. We practiced daily. At this time, I was actually working for the Ontario government from Montreal because it was still COVID, so I could. I was finishing 3 courses in school and I was playing professional hockey at night. So there was quite a bit going on, but it was almost like all of the pressure had been taken off of hockey, and all of a sudden, I was performing at the level that I should be performing at to be there. Just a little bit, I had all the tools, I just needed a little bit more composure. And yeah, even we went to uh, Nova Scotia for the first tour, and I scored my first goal in the first period of my first ever pro game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really a I should be here moment, and I've worked for this moment.
Yeah, that's great. And then the women's game went in a different direction. And after you finished playing professionally in the PAEHF, they started the PWHL the next year. And you decided at that time that you wanted to, I guess, transition to another part of your life and started taking your real estate license and as well as started your summer program for girls, which I think is great. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about your summer program, like how you got started, what kind of challenges did you have getting that up and running, and any like financial challenges you had with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I initially started my program's called For the Girls, which I love because as years go on and I get further and further away from the game, I like to hand it off a little bit more every year. Particularly this summer, Sam Isbell came home and pretty much did the whole thing as the head coach, which is really sweet because she's still playing. But I started it when I was playing in the Premier Hockey Federation. I was still in Montreal. That was the first year that I got to play hockey as my full-time job. I was making enough money that I had all this free time, and anybody who knows me knows that free time for me is a killer because I'll always pick something to fill it with. So ultimately, I started dreaming up of how to give back to my community at home, and girls hockey is still very much growing in Thunder Bay. There isn't a huge availability of all girls programs that are running at the level that they should be to encourage those girls to go to the next level. And it's still very hard to come out of Thunder Bay and move into a youth sports or a collegiate level and then move on from there. So that was kind of my dream, was to bring something home that not only made um, interacting with past professional or current professional girls more accessible and having strong role models, but also giving you the tools to move on to the next level and recognizing where I needed help and giving it back. So I would say the biggest challenges with starting something like that is that I was 23 the first year that I ran it. 23 or 20, 24, 24, I'm lying. It was 24 the first year that I ran it, and it was kind of hard to show back up in my hometown and say, I know I'm 24 years old, but just trust me, I'll do this right. I believe we had 12 girls in that first year in a combined U15, U18 division. And every single girl that we had that year has a huge bond with both myself and my right hand, Sydney Isbell, because that's everybody that just believed in us to do it right. And we really put everything that we had into it. Um, yeah, it was just such a surreal experience being able to give that back. Financial challenges with that business. This year we are officially, I believe that we had over 60 girls between a U11 to a U18 span. And it was incredible. It was incredible. There was one day where we were doing a closing event for one of the age groups, and the room was full. And actually, Haley Irwin, who is Thunder Bay local as well, came out to talk to the girls, and she was my idol growing up. And was kind of sitting in the stands looking at where this thing has grown to. There was 25 girls in the room, and was just shedding tears in the back watching Haley talk to them. But I would say the biggest financial challenge is when you're running a kids hockey camp is that everybody thinks that it's this cash cow, and it's actually something where this year in particular and last year, I actually didn't take anything from it because the goal as of right now is to grow that business and to have the correct coaches out there. So I don't want to be on the ice myself and 5 high school girls giving a product that I'm not proud of to the girls just to make a dime. I'm fortunate enough that I'm doing well enough with real estate and I'm good with my finances in that I can pretty much just volunteer for the month of July. And hopefully in the future that changes, but for right now, the biggest goal is just having something that is lasting. So to have professional coaches come home and to have people who are qualified on that ice kind of changes the dynamic of what that camp costs, but I'm also always happy to do it. It's again, it's something that I see as a privilege because of everything else that I have going on.
Right. And then how does the balancing the summer camp and your real estate business, and how did you get started in the real estate business? And it seems like you ramped up pretty quickly on that too, and doing pretty well there. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, um, real estate was never the plan. I have a biology degree on the wall that I did very well in, and I always thought I would continue in school for, but The first summer that I was running for the girls was the summer where we got the call that the league had folded. Um, I got the call about 2 weeks before camp started, and when I heard 11 teams was going down to six, and knew the changes in the financial structure of payments for players, I just knew it was not attainable for me to keep playing. I wish that there was somewhere else that I could have gone that would have been financially attainable and I could have continued playing, but I don't have. My parents have picked up the world, moved it to the left, and given it to me, but they could not continue to financially support me past 18. So even in college, I worked as a wildfire fighter during the summers to make $30,000 as fast as possible and get back into it. So I just knew when I got that news that it was the end for me, and I kind of had to fake it until I could make it through the hockey camps, and then come September, um, was kind of the decision point of, okay, well, what's next? And when you're thinking of careers that are going to give you the entire month of July off with a thumbs up and have fun, it's a pretty short list. So I actually ended up calling my business partner now, Karen Hill, who is a friend of my mom's who watched me grow up. She actually played women's hockey with her, so the power of hockey. She watched me grow up. She knew I was playing professionally. We'd always ran into each other over the years, but she was a very successful agent in Thunder Bay. And I ended up giving her a call and saying, "Do you think he'll be any good at it?" And she said, "Absolutely, only to come work with me when you're done." So I did a 2-year real estate course in the span of 4 months because I just wanted to get started on what comes next. And I really launched right into it. And the beautiful thing about partnering with somebody that is busy, and I'm so fortunate to be able to have done it, and to Karen for believing in me to be able to capitalize on opportunities, was that that's all that it was. It was just you were given all of the opportunity in the world, but it was your job to capitalize it, which is funny because it's kind of like growing up in hockey. Your parents are giving you everything, but it's always up to you what you're going to do with it. It's kind of the same environment. So opportunity would come. It was all about how do I capitalize? How do I deal with it? And how hard do I want to work? Which is real estate worked out really well for me because you earn according to how hard you work. And your next opportunity comes according to how hard you work. And I love to work. It's kind of ingrained into me, especially coming from professional athletics. I noticed that I took so much more away from it than just being a professional hockey player. I took so much work ethic, so much drive, so much knowing what it takes to live life on that level to become part of that small percentage.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of the money challenges and how, because today's world, hockey is very expensive to play, and the women's game is growing tremendously right now. And I think what you're doing with your summer program is great. I think that's going to continue to help grow the women's game. Hopefully, get more girls involved in playing, and with the PWHL now expanding, hopefully they'll keep expanding, and we'll see that grow as well, and salaries continue to go up. What how was your growing up in terms of, like, how did your parents be able to plan and afford? I don't know if you know this, but if you do, be able to pay for you to get through all those years from when you were so young till you actually started making some money.
It was pretty unique. I definitely I don't come from a family where that was easy, but my parents gave everything for every opportunity that I got. We particularly the year that I played in prep school, I know that there was a lot of sacrifices made. Growing up year after year, we are lucky enough that my dad owns his own business. He actually, the story is that when I was about 3 and we had to move home, he was a pipeliner. And we would always go away with him when we were younger, but then my older brother had to go to school, so we moved home. He was always away. I called somebody else in the grocery store with his mustache dad, and he was home within 2 weeks and opened his business, which starting a business, not easy, as I have found out many times. So the only way we were lucky was that with that business, somehow every single year, The sponsorship was entirely from the business that was on the back of the jersey. So nice little loophole for people who know it and who run their own business. That's a lot of how we got through was through that and a lot of support from the bigger companies that he was partnered with. So we were really fortunate in that way, but there was a lot of sacrifices. My mom actually worked at the mill in town and would work days and nights, 12-hour shifts. So managing two kids in sports and all that was going on, it was a bit tough. My dad was still is a superhero. He was working 14, 16-hour days and still putting up a backyard rink. Um, just truly the best parents that I could have asked for as far as it wasn't easy, but they made it look easy and they made sure that we always had everything that we could ever want.
That's great. They're able to manage their business and getting you through to play hockey to where you went. So how now that you're running two businesses kind of and that are very sporadic in terms of income, because both the summer program, you said you're not really taking any money right now from that, and then from the real estate, it's obviously not consistent income month over month. So how are you? What are challenges do you find in managing your day to day investments, money, those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a unique environment to be paid like a real estate agent, but it's not that different from when I was playing hockey because I was making, $55,000 a year, but I made that $55,000 within 7 months. So the trick is to make sure that you're putting enough away into the background where you can't see it so that you're not spending it. Um, it's really you have to get really good about knowing where you have money and where you don't have money as far as I did fill out my first home savings account 2 years in a row, and now I'm actually closing on a house on September 3rd, which is really sweet. But that money went in huge chunks when I had it, and maybe there was some periods in there where I was skinny without it. But it's all about knowing kind of where you're projected over the year and spending accordingly. I'm somebody who likes to tuck a lot of money away. I won't pretend that my tax bill this year didn't almost make me run to Alaska, but it's all skills in how you are managing yourself and what your goals are for yourself. I've never been somebody who spent down to my last dime, especially having a lot of exposure. Even I talked about during college, I would work as a wildfire fighter because when my parents dropped me off at 18, they said, "We wish you the best of luck from here on out. It's on you." So I would make $30,000 in the summer, working like a dog, and then I would space that $30,000 out over a long winter. So a lot of my school was covered from my hockey scholarship, but when you're youth sports, you don't get room and board. And because of that job, I actually needed a vehicle because I was working 3 hours north of Thunder Bay. So I had to take this money and space it out over the entire 8 months that I was in school, and I had that experience of doing it. So it's not as much of a challenge to roll it into real estate now. I find that I try and pay myself a biweekly, and I keep the rest in a savings account, though I will say a lot of weeks I fail at it. I think the biweekly should go up. I think I've earned a raise, but um, yeah, no, it's all about just kind of knowing what your goals are and what you want to put away. I think that I've had a unique experience where I watched my parents give everything to their kids, and my dad is still working. He's actually back at the pipeline now. He is my superhero, but I wish he could stop working. But I know that he gave everything to us in the years that it should have been being invested. So now at my age, I think I really prioritize putting away money into investments while, I don't have kids and I don't have dependents and I can cut corners on a few things that I might think I want or need as far as not buying brand new vehicles, things like that, that I know now is the time to take that money instead and pour it into somewhere where it's going to count later.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice for people. So, in terms of the summer program, the hockey school, and real estate, what's your goals going forward? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from now in terms of your businesses?
Ooh, 5 to 10 years from now. Um, for the hockey school, I think every year it becomes a little bit bigger to the community. We get so much feedback about how appreciative parents are and the quality of the program that we're putting out. And we really focus on the interactions that we have with the players and making sure that they feel encouraged and they feel like they take at least a quarter of the love for the game that we have away. And it just gets a little bit deeper ingrained every year in the community, which is exactly what the goal was. So 5 years from now, I would love to imagine that all of our camps will be sold out. Maybe we will even be running multiple throughout the summer. Um, just being more full and a little bit less of a stress point. Ice always costs a lot. There's always that moment of stress when the bills are coming around. My dream for it is that that kind of goes away and it becomes more of a ebb and flow of a business. No huge dreams as far as it making $1 million, but just for it to be deeply ingrained in the community is the goal. For real estate with my first house, I actually bought a Thunder Bay's nice. It doesn't cost nearly as much to live here as anybody else, um, or anywhere else. So if anybody thinks about moving here, can you call? But I bought a house with two separate units in it. So it's in a really nice neighborhood of Thunder Bay. It's actually across the street from where I rent right now, which is hilarious in itself. But it has two units in it. So I'm actually going to rent one of the units and live in the other one. I'm totally renovating both of them in September when I get the keys. Um, it's going to give me just a little bit more financial freedom as far as how much is going into investments and things like that in this nice young age. And then later, I'm hoping to, use that house, leverage that house to move into more of a forever home for myself. But again, right now, I'm all about making sacrifices at this age. So my first home naturally moved more into having a dual unit just to kind of free up some funds. I'm with real estate comes brokerage fees, comes office fees, comes all of these monthly fees, plus you have a car payment, plus you have your rent, and then all of these things. And I ended up sitting down and putting all of those numbers together, and I was astonished at what that number actually was because I am fortunate enough to be busy with real estate and make a good amount of money with real estate. But I was kind of sitting around at the end of last year going, where did it all go? And when I did that calculation, I understood where it all went. So that was kind of the goal moving into this year was, okay, how do I take some expenses off of myself at this age so that I can pour that money into places where it will count? And then later in life, go for more of the cushy route.
Yeah, that's awesome. So those are some great goals, and hopefully you reach them. So let's just end up with some rapid fire questions. So first question is, what's the best money tip you've ever gotten?
Ooh. Hmm. Start investing young. That was right about the time that we connected. Up until then, I didn't even know that investments were a thing. Mm. Didn't come from a family that had money to be investing, so.
Yeah, that's right. And we're on a good path right now too, and you're on a good path in terms of hitting your goals. So, what's one of your biggest financial mistakes you've made over the years?
Ooh, biggest financial mistakes. Running your own business, especially with real estate, you are actually given your HST. It's not held back from you, and you are paid in full. So no taxes come off your check. And with that being said, you have a lot of expenses that are constantly flowing out the door. And I was given my first ever tax bill for real estate last year, and with HST and personal taxes and all of this, it was $26,000. And I was nowhere near ready for that bill. So the beginning of this year looked a little hairy scary because again, real estate is the harder you work, the more opportunity you have to make money. So naturally, I was working like a dog because I had just been given a $26,000 tax bill. I I did a great job with like tracking my expenses. I'm really thankful that I grew up in a family that owned their own business, so I knew to obviously keep all my receipts, always track everything that I'm doing, make sure that it's all logged, and there was no mistakes on that side. But nobody prepared me for, hey, if you're getting all of your money up front, they want some of that back.
All right, let's end with some hockey advice. What's one piece of advice you would give to a young girl playing hockey right now?
Oh, I always say two things to the girls in my camps, especially because pressure hit me so young, and being being a standout player from a small town is that there's so many people rooting for your success, and there's so much pressure that comes with that, and so many expectations. So I have two things that I always say to the girls in my camp, and one of them is do it because you love it. I think it's really easy to lose that we're playing hockey because we love it. We hang out with our friends every day. We get to do this thing that we decided pretty much when we could walk for most of us that we loved, and we've been chasing it since then. And I usually find that once those girls get into the mindset of doing it because they love it, they're no longer dreading that dry line that's going to be hard or dreading the things that they need to do to get to that next level. Instead, they're remembering that they're doing it because they love it. The longer you can do it for usually depends on how much you love it. And the second one that I always say is that hockey is not that serious. It took me a really long time to realize that if I bombed a pass up the middle and absolutely did a meltdown on the play, I would beat myself up over it. And it took me probably until professional hockey to realize that when I walk away from the rink today, everybody at home is healthy, world's still going to turn, and it's going to be okay. And those two mindsets really helped me take a step back from the game as a high achiever, as somebody who always wanted to do the best and be the best. Those two mindsets helped me actually take, I want to do the best, I want to be the best, and move it into, but it has to be fun so that I don't have a meltdown. So it's kind of what I try and leave the girls with every summer that I see them is do it because you love it, and it's really not that serious. At the end of the day, no matter how bad you play today, you're gonna have another opportunity tomorrow.
Right, that's great advice. Yeah, I always tell that to my kids as well. Like, just go out there and play every shift differently, and if you make a mistake, you have the next shift to do better. So,
There's always the next one, and not taking it so seriously really helps on that recovery rate of, I mean, you see professional players screw up all the time. The biggest difference between the top and the middle and the bottom is who can screw up and then keep going. Let it go.
all right, well, that was good podcast today. So, Kaity, thanks for coming on. This was awesome. Some great advice for some young girls coming up playing hockey and some of those parents that are probably struggling with how to manage their own work schedules, businesses, and also paying for their kids' sports or hockey events. So, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Financial Power Play. If this episode sparked something for you, be sure to subscribe, share it with your hockey crew, and leave a review. Want to talk about building your own financial playbook? Visit uptownwealthmanagement.com to book a free consultation. Until next time, stay focused, stay flexible, and keep playing your game.